When you feel it's hopeless, when you think that you lost, oh, I will take your hand and we'll rise up from the dust.
Hello and welcome to Car Garage, and you find me today in a Renault Laguna Coupe 3-litre turbo diesel V6. Now, this Renault Laguna Coupe is a bit like the actor Gerard Lobo. I know what you're going to say, who the heck's Gerard Lobo? Well, Gerard Lobo, I'll have you know, is a very good-looking, talented Indian-American actor that, let's face it, you have never heard of. In the same way that this Renault Laguna Coupe is a good-looking, talented car that you've probably never heard of. Now, in this review, I'm going to be looking at the car's exterior design. I'm going to be commenting on its practicality. I'm going to go inside and look at the cars, talk about the car's interior, and then I'm going to talk about its equipment and tech on offer. Then finally, I'm going to take the car for a drive and tell you what it's like to drive. When all said and done, I'm going to rank this car on each one of those 5 categories. Give it a mark out of 5, and ultimately end up with a Dream Car Garage score out of 25. And you can let me know when I've finished what you think of my marks, if you would have marked it higher, lower, or you just don't give a monkeys. Starting at the front, we have this lower mesh part at the bottom of the grille. It's kind of almost an Aston Martin type shape at the bottom. I like the slats that are going across. It gives it a little bit of presence and a little bit of class as well. Moving up, we have these nice strong creases in the bonnet. Not keen on the shape of the lights. I don't think they work well with the front of the car. We have the automatic screen light wash for the bulbs. I think ultimately it's got presence, but the front shot is not my favourite shot of this car. As we move round now, and we come round to the side, now we see the real beauty of this machine. It's a really elegant looking shape. It's really nicely proportioned. It kicks up a little bit at the back, which makes it look a little bit intentional, a little bit powerful. The arches flare out at the back. The wheels, I think these are 18-inch wheels, they fill the arches well, at least diameter-wise. It's a very well-proportioned looking car, but it's not extravagant. It doesn't shout. It's a very, very subtle car. As we move around towards the back, I think we come to what's arguably one of the best features. It's got a really superb rear end. No extra spoiler to spoil the shape. It just kicks up beautifully towards the back end there, and that's very Aston Martin, like the way it kicks up at the back. And then we go right around to the back. Again, a really, really good view. Noise for the car wow stick of truth there. 2 solid big exhausts at the back. So this kind of rear 3/4 look, that's kind of like my favorite look for this particular vehicle. Nice and powerful around this section, but still very, very elegant. One of the things visually I think is not as successful, if you look at the way the rear wheels are set quite far in the rear wheel arches, almost look a little bit boat-like. So I don't really like that. So if you look at the gap between the rear wheel and the outer arch, it's about 2 or 3 inches there. So the wheels seem to sit into the wheel arches, almost like a boat in a way. I don't quite like the look of that. If I was to keep this car, I'd probably get some spacers to really kick the wheels out so they are in line with the outer wheel arches. But apart from that, I think overall it's a really good looking design. It's an exercise in understatement. It's not overdone. It's very subtle. Now, that subtlety isn't for everyone. Some people like a car that shouts its credentials a little bit more. This isn't a shouty car. It's a subtle car. It's subtle. I think it's handsome and it's beautiful as well, especially in this sort of candy apple metallic red. Stunning colour. So looks-wise, I think that's a really, really successful accomplishment from Renault. It's not overstated, it's restrained, but it's handsome and good-looking. And it's the kind of car that the occasional person will give a acknowledging glance back at, as opposed to when it drives past, everyone stops and swivels their head. It's not that kind of stop, swivel your head dramatic, but it is elegant. So I think that's a very successful part straight away. It's a good looking car, but in an understated way. If your character can handle the subtle and understated, you don't necessarily, ooh, look at that. Well, that's not understated. bright blue Porsche 911. That's a good looking car. So if your character is not the kind of character that can handle something that's subtle, you need to have a car that shouts a bit louder. This isn't really a shouty car. This is a kind of quietly confident kind of car, and it's got quietly confident looks. Elegant, beautiful, but not shouting about it. That's the outside. Practicality now. This car is a surprisingly practical car. It's based on the Renault Laguna Saloon, which is quite a commodious car. So as a result, this car has a enormous boot. I mean, it is a coupe after all. Normally you expect compromises because it's a coupe, but this car's got an enormous boot. And to add to the practicality further, the back seats fold down at the pull of a button, completely flat. So completely flat. The back seats drop down completely flat, so you can load, and the opening is quite wide, so you can load fairly large items into the boot. So, So here we are in the back of the coupe. Now, access to the back of any coupe is never going to be a really dignified affair, but the Renault does have extremely wide doors. But the gap between the seats when they're slid fully forward is still relatively small, so it's never going to be an elegant way to access or to exit this particular car. But once you are in the back, what you have is two seats, individually sculptured. So there's some lateral support for the sides, and there's some side leg supports as well. So this is actually, sat in the seat, it's actually a pretty comfortable seat. Now I'm 5'10". I have the legs of a 6'2" person. I have unusually long legs for my height. But even so, above my head is about maybe inch and a half, maybe possibly 2 inches, maybe 2 inches above my head. You've got armrests, you've got a headrest. It's actually a pretty comfortable seat. If I'm gonna put the, you could realistically, even though no coupe really, shy of an S-Class coupe or something of that size, or Bentley Continental GT, no coupe really is going to maximize on rear leg room. But for a coupe in this segment, sort of a 3 Series size, based on something like a regular saloon, a medium-sized saloon, this is a pretty decent space. Front seats again, you seem to have a lot of space in the front of this car, a lot of space indeed. So it's very, very comfortable. You're not cramped at all. It's quite wide, so it feels like a spacious environment to be in. Which leads me nicely on to the interior design. This car is beautifully appointed. Following on it in the same kind of ethos as the exterior design, understated class, that's what you have, class, that's what you have inside of this Renault. This car is 11 years old, it's done over 100,000 miles. The interior is spotless. It looks literally like an ex-demo car. If I said this car had done 100 miles, you'd say, oh, fair enough, that seems reasonable. Such is how it's worn. So that really kind of goes into not only the interior design, but it starts talking about the quality as well. Because for a car to wear this well after 11 years and over 100,000 miles, the interior is absolutely spotless. That's just a testament to the fact that they've used really high quality materials. In terms of design, again, the same theme of understated classes fall through to the inside. So the dashboard is beautifully laid out, simplistic, clear, easy, nice lines, nothing flustered. It's like the designers had a design and then they pulled back every line that they thought was unnecessary, just leaving the perfect amount of lines and shapes inside. It's got a good mixture of soft touch leatherette type of plastics. It's got some satin finishes. It's got some brushed aluminium type finishes, and they all work together really well. It's an elegant, classy place to be. As I'm moving around a little bit, you do hear the odd creak here and there, in a way which possibly you wouldn't get from a German car, perhaps, but it's bolted together really well, and it's aged particularly well. The car, front, back, seats, plastics, everything, absolutely spotless. The choice of colour in this particular one, this cream leather interior, it makes the car feel bright and airy. That set against the black of the carpets, black on the dashboard, with different variations of silver and grey. Understated, works really well, feels luxurious. It feels like a Grand Tourer. This is a GT car after all. It's part of a Renault Sport, the RS, who's got an RS badge in it. But this is, for me, a Grand Touring type of vehicle. And it's appointed with really nice luxury. Now we're going to talk about the equipment and kit list. And I'm bound to miss stuff off because there's loads of both. So I'm going to try and list all the different things that are in here. Obviously it's got power steering, electric windows, electric heated mirrors, electric heated memory seats. You can just press the button and it'll automatically go back and find your particular seating. So that's a pretty cool feature. Automatic memory seats, it's got 3 memory settings. They're heated as well, up to your 1, 2, 3 stages. It's got automatic wipers, automatic lights, automatic handbrake, which doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal until you drive other cars with electronic handbrakes and you have to fiddle around to get it off. As soon as you put it into drive and go to pull off, automatically disengages the handbrake. A really nice touch. These are the kind of features that once you get into them, you don't think they mean anything until you get in, until you have them, and then you absolutely think, well, I can't go back now. You can't go back. Another feature, which is one of my favourite features, it's got keyless entry. Keep the key in your pocket, walk up to the car, touch the handle, opens up, sit down in the car, press start, and as you press start, the windows, the mirrors automatically fold open, and boom, you're ready to go. That is such a nice touch that you get used to these kind of features to the point by you don't want to live without them. What else has it got on? I keep finding new features that I didn't know before. Obviously, it's got Bluetooth connectivity for your phone, so that's an easy one. So you go in, it can connect your phone straight up, and then your phone obviously works for this, can be operated through the system. Obviously, modern system. I mean, this has got as much kit as I think would have been available on a car in 2010. I don't think there would have been many cars in 2010 that would have had more kit than this. You'd have to go to a really high-end Mercedes or something to get more kit than this for the time. It's got dual zone climate control, so your partner and you can have your own climate settings. And it's got an absolutely stunning, some like 10 speaker Bose sound system, which can thump some serious noise. The sound system is excellent. It's not got a tremendous amount of storage. So for example, typically speaking, in these kind of videos, people like to shove a bottle into the side doors. The side doors ain't fitting no bottle. However, you've got quite a big space in the center console. You've got USB connectors in the center console. You've got a 12-volt battery in the center console. You've also got one at the front. So you've got 2 12-volt sockets, connectors at the front. One's a cigarette lighter, but obviously no one uses a cigarette lighter. So it's got that as well. So all round, practicality speaking, a very practical car. Interior, beautifully appointed with a high level of kit. Probably as high a level as kit that would have been available on a car in that year. I love when car makers try and step into a market which they don't traditionally belong to. Typically speaking, when you come to big luxury type coupes, that's been pretty much the domain of the German cars since time memorial. So you got your 3 Series, and you got your CLK or your E-Class or your Audi A5. If you're going to go big luxury coupe, people are going to go German straight away. So when you get car makers like Peugeot with their 406 or 407, and when they try and step into a market where they don't belong, just like Renault have done with this particular car, typically what they have to do, they have to make an exceptional car and load it with an extraordinary amount of kit thrown into the bargain to sort of tempt people into it and away from the Germans. The Peugeot 407 is a car I want to get hold of. On my channel, I've already done a review of the Peugeot 406, which is a really beautiful car, actually. A really elegant car, one of my favourite cars, actually, the Peugeot 406. Peugeot 407, not as aesthetically pleasing, but absolutely loaded with kit, and it's got a pretty good engine as well. So typically speaking, when you get a car maker that doesn't belong in a particular market, they absolutely load it with kit and with equipment, and they go all out to kind of tempt people away from the established brands. Typically speaking, the price sit a little bit below the Germans. And that's what I've done with this car. New this car was about, I think it's about £35,000, priced probably equivalent, probably somewhere in the region of £5 or £6 or even £7,000 cheaper than the equivalently spec'd, equivalently engined BMW 3 Series or Audi A5. So what do you get? Well, for starters, you get an absolutely stonking 3-litre V6 engine. This V6 engine in this car is world class. This is a world class engine. In fact, this engine was developed in conjunction, I think, with Nissan, and it also features in the Infiniti range. Infiniti is the luxury brand of Nissan, and they have a whole bunch of SUVs and luxury cars, and this engine features in that. So that gives you an indication. It's a world class engine. This engine has about 231 bhp. I think it's about 231, 235. I'll put the correct data in. It's about 235 bhp. It's got over 300 pounds-feet of torque. It does 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds and tops out about 155. This car is an absolute weapon. This car is an absolute weapon. Off the line, it's quick but not blistering. But once you're up and rolling, 30 mile an hour, 40 mile an hour, when you put your foot down then, the mid-range shove is just tremendous. You can literally chase people down. You see someone in the distance, aim, prod, fire. The engine on this thing is an absolute weapon. And it's so quiet and so smooth, really befitting of a Grand Tourer. It's a really quiet, really smooth engine. Fantastic engine. This engine is easily the match for anything that can be produced by the Germans. It's got a lightness to it. It picks up really well. It's got a lot of shove. It's quiet. It's refined. It's a superb engine. And I think this particular engine is probably the best part of this car. I'm tied between the engine and the way the car looks. I think the engine's probably the most successful part of this particular car for me. It's a tremendous engine. Now, but this now leads me on to how the car handles. Now, this car has something called four-wheel steer, active 4, I think they call it. And what that means is that at certain speeds, at open road speeds, say 30, 40 miles an hour, etc., the front, all four wheels turn slightly in the same direction when you're turning to give what they say is extra stability. You had this on the old Honda Preludes. It's not a new system. Honda Prelude had this on their cars back in the 90s. So this Renault have revived that with this particular coupe. So four-wheel steer. So at certain speeds, the wheels turn slightly. So the front wheel turns and the back wheel turns slightly in the same direction as the front wheel, ideally to give better stability. Now, I can't really tell, to be perfectly honest with you. It feels like a fairly solid, stable car, but it doesn't feel massively more stable than any other well-sorted coupe of this type I've driven. It just feels nicely planted on the road. At slow speeds now, like parking speeds, the back wheels turn counter to the front to give you a more acute turning angle. Now, I've noticed this a little bit, not massively, I'm not gonna lie. But that then brings me to a feature about the way this car drives that I'm not so keen on. I'm not so keen on the way this car rides. Now, it's planted, and on smooth roads, it's smooth and quiet and planted. I've got no problem with how it handles. However, the ride, for me, is the least successful part of the whole car. You see, this car gives the impression to me that it's a Grand Tourer, the kind of car you go cruising across country in. It's well insulated, so it's very quiet, even at speed on the motorway. At 70 miles an hour, you can whisper on the motorway to the person next to you. Such is the sound insulation in a car like this. But then, they're gonna fit it with this really harsh ride, which I don't quite understand, because it's not like it's taut and it doesn't roll or anything like that. But when you're driving on it now, and this is really odd, when you're driving on it and you go over rough surfaces, it's really harsh over rough surfaces. There you go. As soon as the road surfaces are uneven, you get this really harsh ride, which really, for me, spoils it. If this was a rock hard hot hatch, I'd accept that, because I think, well, that's part of the experience. You expect a hard ride with a rock hard sports car like a hot hatch. This is not a hot hatch. I want this car to have an absorbent ride. And you feel everything in this car. which is surprising and for me disappointing. Okay, let's have our summary then. So what we got? So let's start off with the exterior, how the car looks. Now for me, the looks of the car, that's got to be, for me, the most successful, one of the most successful parts of this car. It's a really good looking car. It's elegant, yet strong, purposeful, not overdone, but this may be a plus or a negative. Not a showy car, just it's very, very restrained. It's sort of classy for the person who doesn't have to or need to shout about what they've got. They've got it, they know it, they're confident, don't shout about it. It's not the kind of car that shouts at everybody, hey, look at me, I'm driving a super fast, expensive car. It doesn't shout at that, it's subtle. So for me, looks wise, depending on how you are, I'm gonna go 4 out of 5 for the looks. Now, please let me know in the comments what you think in terms of looks. How would you rank this car in terms of looks? Do you like the way it looks? Do you think it looks cool? Do you think it looks subtle? Or do you think it looks rubbish? I don't know. Either way, good or bad, let me know what you think about the car's look. But for me, looks-wise, this car is a 4 out of 5. Next, practicality. With this car being based on the very capacious Renault Laguna saloon. There's also a state version as well. Unsurprisingly, this is quite a commodious car. So it's got a very big boot for a coupe. The back seats drop completely flat at the pull of a button. Really nice practical touch. So you can actually use this car very practically and load quite a lot of stuff in it and through it. You can load quite a lot of stuff into this car. Both the front seats and the back seats are very spacious, especially for a coupe. So really, bear in mind that you expect coupes to be compromised. I realistically have to give this car, again, a 4 out of 5. You could get a tiny bit more space in the back, perhaps. That'll give it a 5 out of 5. But realistically speaking, I'm happy to give this car a 4 out of 5. Next up, we've got interior design. Following on with the character of the outside, this interior is very elegantly appointed. The choice of materials and the colour and the quality, I think, has all been done really well. So again, this car's ranking really high. Out of 5, I've got to go 4 out of 5. It's worn and aged really well. It looks good. Maybe let down a tiny bit by the quality, the ultimate quality. Get a little creak here and there. But apart from that, this is a really well appointed, really well made, good looking interior. 4 out of 5. Next up, we've got equipment and tech. Again, this car is fully loaded with equipment and tech. I would imagine that there would not have been many cars in 2010 that would have come with more kit than this has. Keyless entry, fantastic. Obviously, electric windows all round, fantastic. Electric heated mirrors, you expect that at this car, fantastic. Electric heated memory seats, fantastic. Keyless entry, wicked. We've got to give this car a 4 out of 5 for equipment. Finally now, how the car drives. Again, this car, it's all about the engine for me. The engine is the masterpiece, the centerpiece of this particular vehicle. An absolute masterpiece. Powerful, quiet, very torquey, quick off the line, smooth, fantastic engine. Handling is secure, sound, competent. Not exciting car to drive, but it's not a nippy car. This car is a turn, aim, point, fire, and better make sure you've got a good bit of clear road ahead of you when this car starts to wind up its speed. So it's not nippy, but it is a fast car to drive, especially the mid-range shove, but let down for me by the ride. And the ride is disappointing enough to really disappoint me. So engine peach, handling great, ride quite poor. So for me, that drops it down to a 3 overall for the drive. So what we've got 4, 8, 12, 16 with a 3 for the drive. So here we have it. The final Dream Car Garage score is a 19 out of 25. A good solid score for a good solid car. but I'd really love to know what you think. So let me know in the comments below how you would rate this car yourself out of 25 in each one of those categories. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.